December is usually one of the best months for fishing in Florida, but unseasonably warm temperatures have made the fishing challenging over the past few days. Hoping to change their luck, the guys have decided to continue their hunt for big bass on a remote section of Lake George.
They're here. Nice little, and that's why they call them black bass right there. Pretty guy. And I'm not throwing anything groundbreaking. Oh, black Cinco. These fish are so tight to these trees that even when I was pitching the frog or anything else up there, it bounced off the tree and spook them. So I tied the Cinco on, and I'm throwing it up and letting it hit the trunk and slide down into the water. And then you just see it, the line just start moving off, and it's tough fishing. Florida, December, water temperature is 72 degrees when it's traditionally more in the mid to high 50s or low 60s, which has pushed the fish out of the river and up into the lakes, like with the Lake George where we're at right now, and they're started to commit to shallow water and really start to push out brim and things like that. But right now the flats are loaded with mullet. I mean, loaded with mullet. You can't paddle 5 feet without spooking mullet everywhere, so that's making things tough. And then the wind's been switching 15 degrees every day for 4 days, so it really hasn't set up one part of the lake. So the fish are scattered. So we're having to get creative to find fish right up tight against this wood. We've already covered the tree fishing segment, so if you're taking one for the team, we're good.
Yeah,
that's a better fish.
That's a good one right there.
That's a better fish.
Oh yeah. There you go.
That's what's up. Well, there's the best one of the day. Probably 3.5. And he flat annihilated the old frog. So, starting to get a little better. Starting to get a little better. So what we've got right here is this scattered algae bloom. This is a late algae bloom. Probably what happened was the water temperature went down, then came back up, and it triggered this bloom. And then we've got hyacinth, which, because this side of the lake has been out of the wind for about 3 or 4 days, because it was northeast first and then it switched to south, it's real scattered, as you can see. And so what you find is these little clusters of it, and pitching to them or to the edge of them is always good, because the brim will get in around the root cluster and sit and wait. And then those bass will swim. A lot of times they'll swim from group to group, kind of pelagic like. So these bass today are relating to this hyacinth up in these pockets. And hyacinth is free floating. So what it does is it bumps up against something and kind of holds in place, or the wind blows it together in big clusters. But I wanted to pick it up to show you that root ball that's floating below it right there. And they connect together in little 3 and 4 pods, but that right there spreads out when it's under the water. And it creates this really cool hanging canopy, almost like reverse kelp beds. And so the bass really relate to that stuff. The head produces some shade. The root main mast produces some more shade, and bait fish and minnows like to get in underneath it. And with it all hanging together, it creates a cool little maze for the bass to hang out under. So anytime you see that stuff floating and it's potted up in little pockets, it's great to flip and pitch and run a frog down the edge of it.